And welcome back on Halftime. Let's go to the phones right now. Our good friend Bob Holt joining us, sports writer extraordinaire, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Bob, what's going on today? How are you?
I'm good. It's a beautiful day here in Northwest Arkansas, as you now know, being a Northwest Arkansas resident.
That's right. I am a Northwest Arkansan, I guess. I wasn't ever sure what to call myself living in Little Rock. Nobody knows what to call yourself living in Little Rock. Is it a Little Rocker, Little Rockanian? We just go with Arkansan. What do I call myself? Because I'll be living in Johnson. So what do I call myself? A Johnsoner?
Maybe a Johnsonian? I don't know. I haven't really thought of it. I don't know that you want people calling you a Johnson.
That's right. Yeah, don't be calling me a Johnson, please. And that's not my
That wouldn't go
name.
over well.
No, I don't think it would. All right. Bob, I loved your piece that was in the Democrat this morning about the quasi-bubble that Razorback sports has going on. And, I think that's the way that most universities view their athletic departments right now. But it's really, you can only have that bubble for so long, and then students come back on campus. And I think no matter what you do, you can't necessarily keep student athletes and regular students from intermingling now and again. But, there's this sense that you can't trust the 18 to 22-year-old student to do, quote unquote, the right thing during this pandemic to limit the spread. But I want to feel, and maybe it's just because I want football right now. I want to feel like we can trust the student athletes maybe a little more than the general student, because what's at stake for them is their entire season. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'd say I would feel I could trust, and this is not a knock on regular students. I mean, I could trust the athletes a lot more because, you're right. It's their. This is the primary, not that they're not here to get an education and all that, but, the primary reason they're here is to play sports, whether it's football, run cross country, soccer, volleyball, whatever, and then, going into the winter sports. But, they have a lot at stake. And you can imagine the guilt, I guess is a word, that if, you were a person who maybe stepped out of line a little bit and got COVID and then you infected teammates, I mean, that would be pretty big burden to carry, and so I think that's a good kind of peer pressure is, the team leaders telling you, hey, don't go out, stay with your inner circle. That's a term I've heard some of the players use. And it's kind of like Sam Pittman said, the students, started getting back on campus in bigger numbers last week, but it's not like Fable's been a ghost town. And, the athletes started getting back on campus on June 8th, and then they've gradually increased, adding freshmen and everything. So we're talking, over 3 months, they've done a pretty good job of containing things. We know they've had some positive tests, they've had some quarantines, but they haven't had these major outbreaks like you've seen at a lot of places. So the fact they've done so well for 3 months, and now the season, they're trying to have a season, there's a schedule, they're in camp. It's just hard to imagine guys and or girls stepping out of line when they've been able to do it this long, and now there's, they can see the starting point now of their season.
And the word that I saw that Rakeem Boyd uses that is maybe the most important aspect of this because of the mental stress, the emotional stress that I think everybody has felt, even when you've gone back to work, if you've gone back into an office or if you're a teacher that's been in school for a few days now, there's nerves. You want to feel safe no matter what it is you're doing, because it's a little difficult to focus on the task at hand if you don't feel safe. Rakeem Boyd says he feels safe, and I would imagine that's the way the rest of this team feels. So constructing this quasi-bubble around the team, making them feel safe, this makes them this helps them practice better. This gives them the ability to focus on what's important right now outside of staying healthy. So the safety of this is the biggest aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Obviously, playing football or whatever sport you may be involved in is hard enough without worrying about, if I cough or clear my throat, am I going to infect a teammate? Or if I sneeze, we know they've got these guards they wear with their helmets. They're having, I guess they're called the gaiters or the masks. And I know Kendall Browse, the offensive coordinator, said the other day that everybody in their building wears masks. There's not It's not like some of these stores you might walk around in where some guy's got a mask on his chin. You're thinking like, that's really not doing you any good there, buddy. I think everybody's, doing the proper thing. If they're not doing it, I think their teammates or coaches or staff or whoever get on them pretty quick and get them back in line. So, I think that it's like Rakeem said, you're much safer here because you've got all these testing protocols. I mean, if you do have to go into quarantine, they're going to make sure you're getting the right medical care. They're going to make sure you're getting your meals. I know reading a story in the South Bend paper, there's a lot of complaints from Notre Dame students about testing not being done in a timely fashion, and people like we're getting quarantined and we're getting their meals. And so here's obviously Notre Dame, major university, which I think has about 12,000 students. So it's not like it has 40 or 50,000 like Texas or something. So I think you have to commend Arkansas and most of the other SEC schools I've heard about that they're doing a good job of keeping everybody safe.
Speaking to Bob Holt here on Halftime, Bob, there's been a lot of chatter around social media and good chatter from the players and different things like that, particularly Mike Woods, and the overall attitude that they have towards Sam Pittman right now. It's just infectious for how they're kind of portraying the football program right now. And Mike Woods was quoted saying, look, we got dogs on this team. And just you got those kids that really seem like they really want to play for Sam Pittman. And I think overall when you bring it up to the fans' perspective, the overall attitude amongst the fans is starting to really increase a little bit. From earlier this year, you were talking like maybe they win one game or two games, where now it might still be the same way, but the overall attitude from the fans towards this football program heading into the fall, it's on the upward trend.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, good vibes or optimism for a team that's coming off back-to-back 2-10 seasons and has lost 19 straight SEC games. I know there was a lot of angst when, Florida and Georgia both got added to the schedule. I think we talked about that previously, and I said, well, they'll get one of those teams, but they surely won't give them both. Well, they gave them both. And I'm sure privately there was probably a lot of gnashing of teeth or whatever. But, publicly, Sam and Hunter Yurchek players have all said the right thing. It's like, hey, this is just more of a challenge, but another chance to prove ourselves and all that. So it's going to be really interesting with Georgia coming in here right off the bat, Sam's old team. And he knows those coaches. He knows a lot of those players, recruit a lot of those players. So that'll be really interesting. But, I think Sam's very impressed how he's handled this pandemic situation. He obviously hadn't coached the game yet, but I think he's really set a good, calming tone. I mean, if you watch the Zoom calls, which I think are available on like our website and different places, he's just a straight shooter. He's very calm, and it seems like he's very in control of the moment, and that's very impressive, I think, for anybody, but especially somebody who's a first-time SEC head coach.
I also enjoyed your piece on Whole Hog Sports talking about, if we switch to basketball for a second, the different JUCO players that Arkansas has found success in. I mean, and it was enough JUCO players to formulate three teams, just like an all-SEC team. You had a first team, second team, and a third team of JUCO players that have transferred into Arkansas. And I've never really thought about it like that, but Arkansas, how have they found so much talent out of the JUCO market? And when you look at some of those players that came through, it was some of the greatest Razorbacks to ever play in Bud Walton Arena and Barnhill Arena.
Yeah, first off, I got to give a shout-out to Matt Jones, our online Whole Hog Sports editor. He came up with that idea. I wrote the story, made the calls, whatever, but that was Matt's idea, and he kind of did the legwork to put the teams together and check with different people. But, yeah, it is amazing. And, 15 guys, and there's a lot of guys, good players, that we couldn't get on those three teams. So Arkansas had a good history of this. Matt Zimmerman had a good thought. When I talked to him about it, because he's obviously been on the staff and as an assistant and ops guy, now he's the radio color guy. But, they're West Stark, which is now UA Fort Smith, it's a Division II school, but he used to be a JUCO, and it was very good. That's where Darrell Walker and Ron Brewer came from. They had a lot of good players. So Sonny Williams played there. But now West Stark's a 4-year Division II, so you really think about JUCOs in Arkansas. There's Arkansas Baptist, down in Little Rock, but there aren't a lot of junior college programs. But Arkansas has been able to attract junior college players, from around the country, I think, because the program, is nationally known now. And, and another big thing, is that, Eddie Sutton was, people don't really think about this, at least I don't think a lot of people do, but Eddie Sutton, he was a high school coach in Tulsa, then became a junior college coach at Southern Idaho. And he had I think he was 83-14 in 3 years there. And so he comes to Creighton and then to Arkansas, so he's got a lot of JUCO ties. Nolan Richardson played junior college ball at Eastern Mexico, but before he went to UTEP, and then he coached in high school, and just like Eddie Sutton, he went to junior college at Western Texas, and then he had incredible success. I think he won 101-13, won a national title, and then he took all JUCO guys to Tulsa, including Mike Anderson, who was an Arkansas coach, who was a JUCO player. Gene Cady, great Arkansas assistant, who went on great success at Purdue. He was a JUCO coach. So I think the coaches came in, had the JUCO connections, and then once players see guys have success like Darrell Walker, Alvin Robertson, Martin Terry, on and on, then they say, well, that's a good place for me to go too.
When you talk with JUCO athletes and the coaches that have been there, that is an ultimate grind. You get out of JUCO and you get a chance at a Division I school, and I know it's difficult to throw a blanket statement over this, but generally those guys are extremely hardworking, and they are nose to the grindstone sort of players, and don't let a lot of the little things bother them, because there's just no glamour or luxury in JUCO sports at all.
Yeah, and this is a point Matt Zimmerman brought up too, but those guys, they're used to riding around in vans or maybe old rickety buses. They're getting sandwiches. They're not getting these lavish pregame meals where, hey, do you want to have chicken, pasta, steak, whatever? The junior college where they live, I'm not trying to knock them, but they probably aren't the plushest of accommodations, let's say. And then they get here and they're flying on planes and they're getting as many socks and jocks and shoes and whatever they want. My guess is, junior college is year starts and you're handed, okay, here's a couple pairs of shorts, here's a couple pairs of socks, here's a couple jocks. If you lose them, you got to buy your own or something, And I'm just guessing. I've never actually been an equipment manager at a junior college, but and so I think, then they come to a Division I school like Arkansas or, whatever high major program you want to talk about. Suddenly they're, it's such an upgrade, and I think they're super appreciative. I think, like you guys said, they're very hardworking, and they appreciate the opportunity. They want to let the coaches down, and they want to make the most of their opportunity. And they're not going to sweat the little things because they're just really glad to be here. And it's like, we only got steak instead of chicken. Well, I got a bologna sandwich. I tell you, a few months ago, I was in a Fairfield Inn, and I was checking out. And I don't know if this was a junior college team or a D2 team or what, but they were all in that lobby area, where the tables are. And somebody came in with grocery bags, and they put out loaves of bread, cold cuts. I mean, that was their pregame meal, for whatever. I think they were a basketball team. So they weren't having a lavish pregame meal. They were basically somebody, had gone to the grocery, gotten cold cuts and bread, and, some bananas and apples, and that was their pregame meal. And I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but it's obviously lets you know, the different levels we're talking about.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing, though, that every once in a while, a good bologna sandwich does hit the spot.
Every time.
Yeah. Not all the time, just every once in a while.
It's even better when it's a fried bologna sandwich, too.
Yeah, that's true. Bob, we'll let you go, man. Thanks. Maybe I'll see you around in Johnson sometime, okay?
Okay, you guys take care.
All right, take care. Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Yeah, I mean, and it's like SmackDown. It's like the most basic sandwich. It's just a little bread, a little mayo, a little bologna, maybe a slice of cheese, another slice of bread, and you're a happy man, right?
It doesn't take much. I mean, it's the little things that make a big guy like me feel better.
Maybe 4 slices of bologna for you, okay?
4 or 5. 4 good thick slices.
Okay. We'll wrap the first hour up of halftime right after the break. Stay tuned.